Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine Thursday evening by nobody. We had a guest lined up, didn't wind up working out. Tried to get a hold of Raj, super late notice, and he is enjoying family stuff as we all kind of get ready for the upcoming season. So here I am. I am still kind of getting over this bug a little bit. Fortunately, my son actually caught it from me. It's like one of the worst feelings that a parent can get. One of the worst non-serious feelings that a parent can get. Like, you hand off your cough or your cold or whatever to your kid, and he was kind of miserable all day. So we've just been kind of nursing him back to health. And we're all ready for the weekend. And over the weekend, Lakers play a couple of preseason games. So today on the show, we're going to be talking about the injury situation and the latest from practice today, as we got updates on the on Maxi Kleba's quad injury that he got an MRI on. Obviously, heading into tomorrow's game, we got an update on LeBron and Marcus Smart and some of the other guys, who may or may not be able to go tomorrow night. We will preview tomorrow night's game and then kind of preview preseason in general. And then at the end of the show, if you guys have any questions, I will go ahead and answer as many of those as we possibly can. So get that chat rolling. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Quick reminder, though, hit that subscribe button if you guys are new around here. If you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge, or you can use that handy dandy QR code up there, which will flash on the screen from time to time whenever I remember to throw it up there. That will take you to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. So you could subscribe to the show there. If you've already subscribed and you're trying to figure out another way you could help the show right now, hit that like button. The like button helps us quite a bit. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into the latest on the Lakers injury fronts. LeBron, still limited. Marcus Smart, still out. Gabe Vincent talked about conditioning today. So it seems like he is making some progress as well here, or heading into the first weekend of training camp. You also have Edu Diero, who is still out as he recovers from that offseason knee surgery. And then Maxi Kleba ran his MRI. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but he was also out today. So heading into the preseason opener tomorrow night, or tonight, if you guys are listening to this in podcast form, the Lakers will not have LeBron, will not have Marcus Smart. Doesn't appear they'll have Gabe Vincent on in tonight's game either. So that's a bit of a bummer. I'm just kind of rolling through the quotes and stuff like that. Let's see. So JJ Redick, this is from Jovan. JJ Redick said LeBron, Smart, Kleba, Thiero will all miss tomorrow's preseason opener versus Phoenix. Redick said the team is still determining if anyone else will be out tomorrow. So that might include Gabe Vincent there as well. It's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers look like tomorrow. But as it stands right now, those injuries are no real changes there. Now, they did run an MRI on Maxi Kleba's quad injury or bump or bruise that he sustained yesterday. And that MRI came back, sounds like pretty clean. And they're just going to be very optimistic or cautious and just be really smart with Kleba given his recent injury history. Um, JJ Redick said after practice he's going to be missing a few days with this quad thing. It kind of sort of sounds like he took a knee there, basically. Um, and fortunately, it seems like they avoided any kind of a strain, and will, be able to just be extra, extra cautious on the Maxi front. But I wanted to really quickly spend a couple of minutes on Maxi Kleba. Um, it's funny during media day, Jackson Hayes was talking about the Lakers center situation, and he talked a lot about DeAndre Ayton, and he talked a lot about himself, and then he didn't really talk about anybody else. Well, the guy who followed Jackson on the mic was actually Maxi Kleba. And then the Lakers also have Christian Coloco. Look for him to get some minutes tomorrow too. But I thought it was interesting how Kleba, flew under the radar, even with his own teammate there. Given that Kleba has a skill set that the Lakers could really kind of use, right? They missed having Christian Wood or not having, they missed Christian Wood, and it hurt not having him out there as a floor spacing big last season. And if they can get anything whatsoever from Maxi, not only would that help them obviously as a basketball team, but it would also go a long way in convincing some team to consider him anything other than just an expiring contract, which would help, right? The Lakers improve at the deadline. So, I'm not all that optimistic about what Maxi might be able to bring to the table this year. I know that in the summer he had those that video go viral of him windmill dunking. They had the pictures of him lifting, and that went viral as well. Kind of like the opposite of Anthony Davis's recent pictures. But I'm still going to be pretty skeptical that he'll be able to get out there and do anything for the Lakers. But if he can just do, give the Lakers 10-ish minutes a night, space the floor a little bit, maybe increase his role from there. I do think he's probably, like, when healthy in those few games per year that he's healthy, I do think he's probably a better player than Jackson Hayes. And again, he has that skill set that doesn't quite overlap with Ayton's in the way that Hayes's does. He also, by the way, with so many teams playing so big, he also can theoretically play alongside one of the Lakers bigs because of his ability to space the floor. So yeah, I'm really kind of intrigued by Maxi Kleba this year. I know Luka probably really wanted him around, as he is one of his best, if not his actual best friend in the NBA. But from a basketball perspective, we all kind of sort of have to hope that Kleba can provide anything whatsoever. All right, let's man, my voice just I honestly sounded fine all day. Sat down and now sound like shit. Let's go ahead and talk about this preseason opener. So the Lakers play the Phoenix Suns tomorrow. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns had kind of a rough off season of their own. Traded away Kevin Durant, cut Bradley Beal, right? And that Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant era winds up being a giant fart where Phoenix Suns fans were all standing downwind. It was a brutal stretch for them. Nothing really to show for those acquisitions. And now they kind of embark on this weird in-between phase where Matt Ishbia is going out there and trying to stir up any kind of or drum up any kind of excitement that he possibly can. He's talking about how Kevin Durant may or may not have been the problem with the team last year. Who knows? Probably not, but go ahead. They traded for Dylan Brooks. They brought in, obviously, Jalen Green was part of the Kevin Durant trade as well. And now we just kind of see what that team is going to look like. And, for the Lakers, seeing as they're kind of banged up and they're in this, they're trying to implement their own system and embark on what should be a pretty promising opportunity for them. It's a game where, like, preseason wins or losses don't really matter. They you don't want to go winless in preseason. Like, that to me can sometimes be a bit of a red flag, but you don't necessarily need to go out there and stretch yourself to try and go out and win a preseason game, and the Lakers won't. But JJ Redick has talked a lot about identity and culture and championship level conditioning and being in champion shape both mentally and physically. And Luka echoed some of that sentiment after practice today as well. And this first game is one of those opportunities where we finally get to see what that actually means. To what degree did that message sink into these players? Gabe Vincent was talking after practice today, and he talked about how he joked how the players weren't necessarily in love with JJ Redick because of the kind of conditioning they've been doing. And it's like, that's great to hear. But we need to see it in practice, and not practice like what Allen Iverson wasn't all that interested in, but practice in terms of practical terms. So, I'm going to go through a few talking points here about the preseason opener and these preseason expectations. But first and foremost, we really need to see what the guys, what that championship mentality and championship conditioning, and preparation, what that means, what that looks like. That's the number one thing that we're going to be that we hopefully can learn a little bit about tomorrow night. Another thing that JJ Redick has talked about that really kind of caught my attention was his notion of the Lakers being a hit ahead team. Hit ahead means somebody gets a rebound and either the outlet, gets out to the perimeter, and from there you pass it up ahead up the court with one of those, kind of longer passes. That pass is a hit ahead pass. Or sometimes if it's if it's a grab and go type of guy, right? You don't necessarily need that outlet, and that pass that they throw out to the wing, that can be a hit ahead pass as well. And what JJ talked about was how he wants to get the ball up the court quickly, but he also wants to execute once they get down there. If you have an early possession opportunity by way of that hit ahead pass, go ahead, see what you can do. But let's also be disciplined. And if you don't have something there, let's try to get the ball back into your primary creator's hands, whether that's Luka, whether that's LeBron, whether that's Austin, and let's try to get into our offense that much more quickly. And he talked about how the higher points per possession teams in the NBA, how those teams tend to get into their sets that much more quickly. And that was one of the things that drove me nuts watching the Lakers last season is it's one thing to be a methodical team and be an executing team. But when you get into your set with like 15, 14 or less seconds left in the shot clock, you're not going to be able to run as many parts of that set as you could possibly run. And that's why last year, so often, especially in the playoffs, it felt like the Lakers would run like plan A for a set and then immediately get the ball into Luka's hands, and it would just turn into Luka ball. And, with what JJ Redick is kind of talking about here, he wants to get the ball up the court as quickly as they can. He also talked about crashing the offensive boards and then getting back as well, which is an interesting notion that will take effort, but would really make the Lakers a better team. But get the ball up the court, get into your set, execute not just plan A, but get to plan B, get to plan C. Think of like, it's football season right now, right? And you can always watch the best quarterbacks while they're back there. They're, There's read 1, there's read 2, there's read 3. All right, get out of the pocket, right? Go running through the options that quarterback has. Well, basketball sets and systems aren't that different, where it's like, all right, get the hit ahead, see what we got there, in early transition plays. All right, nothing there. Let's get into a secondary transition play. All right, nothing there. Let's get into our sets as quickly as we can, so that if option 1 of this set isn't there, we can get to option 2, and we can swing the ball over to the weak side if we have to, and still have some time left, so that we aren't just throwing a grenade to the weak side over there. One of the things that the Lakers did a lot of last season was splitting Luka and LeBron on each side of the court. And if you get into your sets quickly enough, and you get the defense and you put them in that tornado, then you can then you can throw that skip pass. And the nice thing about Luka and LeBron is that they're both tall and they're both really good at throwing those downhill skip passes. And if the defense is in the blender when either Luka or LeBron catch the ball on the weak side, well, good luck. What do you do against that team? So, seeing as the Lakers look, I reported yesterday that it appears as if Rui Hachimura is probably going to be the starter on day 1, or he's at least the likeliest to be that right now. Well, that would mean that you're leaning into your offense. Your identity is going to be an overwhelming offensive team. And if you're going to do that, you can't just be talented. You also have to execute. And what I'm going to be watching for in this first game, and then obviously throughout preseason from there, is, all right, we talked about the conditioning. We talked about the physical character traits and some of the mental character traits. Well, now I want to look at the execution. I want to see what the Lakers are capable of when it comes to getting the ball up the court, getting into, primary transition, secondary transition, and then getting into a set and letting all of that flow into each other. That was one of my favorite things to have my team do, basically, when I was coaching, was we had a fast break system that just very easily rolled right into our primary set, our primary half court sets, that you could call, additional sets, beyond that stuff. And if that's the kind of thing that the Lakers are going to be looking to do this year, they have the mental capacity with LeBron and Luka running the offense in Austin. You have finishers like DeAndre Ayton, Rui Hachimura, and Austin Reeves in some spots, or one of LeBron or Luka as your finishers there. You have a veteran team that should be able to pick these things up relatively quickly. And hopefully you have leadership that is fully bought in and ready to execute these things, and lead by example. So tomorrow against Phoenix, we could get into some of like how the Lakers match up with so on and so forth. I don't really care about matchup specific aspects of a preseason game. I am a lot more focused on what the Lakers are doing and what the Lakers look like, what their identity looks like, and their ability to execute that identity right away, a few days into training camp. Another thing that I'm going to be looking for is, all right, we aren't going to get obviously a look at what the offense looks like through Luka and LeBron and Austin sets. We aren't going to see that really, obviously, because LeBron's not going to play. But we should have an opportunity to see anything that Austin and Luka can run together. Is Luka going to be setting screens? Is Austin going to be setting screens? And see if they can invert some plays there that way. I'm really curious to see that. I want to see from Luka specifically. All right, we know that he had this body transformation. I also want to see if he has an approach transformation too, where he is more of a threat when he doesn't have the basketball, or he is at all basically impactful when he doesn't have the basketball. And if we can see that from him, in game 1 of the preseason, and you can build on it from there. Perfect. That is a huge element of what we're going to be looking for. And then also on the Luka front, this is going to be interesting this year. Since basically LeBron got there, the Lakers have basically matched his energy, right? If LeBron is showing off in warm-ups and he's rotating early. There's a story that I got from an assistant coach, from a different team, and he was saying how they were getting ready to play the Lakers, and there are two LeBrons, right? There is get down in a defensive stance and make the rotations yourself, LeBron. And there is a point to the rotation LeBron should have made, and then ask, your teammate, why didn't they make that rotation? That's the other kind of LeBron. And this coach was saying how, some random Wednesday night, the Lakers were on the road playing against this guy's team. And he was like, that, he saw the first defensive possession of the game. And he saw LeBron was get down in a stance and make your rotations, LeBron. And he was like, shit. Whew, that makes this game a hell of a lot tougher. And then, the part of the reason that makes that game a hell of a lot tougher is because you haven't engaged LeBron, but also the Lakers have tended to basically match his energy. So if it was door number 2, when LeBron is pointing at guys to make rotations, guess what those guys are going to do? They're getting ready to make, they're doing their own pointing whenever they have the opportunity to point. It reminds me of, I always tell this to Avery, right? She's the big sister. And it's monkey see, monkey do with those two kids, man. You see Avery climbs up the backside of the couch to get onto the couch that way. And guess what Miles is going to go out and try and do? And I always tell Avery, is like, all right, you just did that right now. Within the next 30 seconds, Miles is going to try to do exactly what you just tried to do. And lo and behold, every single time, and she's like, why does he have to copy me? And it's like, because you're the big sister. And with LeBron, right, if he's doing the pointing stuff, and he comes to the sideline, and previously the Lakers had guys who would call him out, right? Boogie Cousins was very vocal about that stuff. Markieff Morris is somebody who had LeBron's attention when he spoke. Anthony Davis, obviously, as well. Rajon Rondo. And if LeBron was, not engaged to the extent that he needed to be, those guys would point it out, and maybe you would get a course correction. But without those guys' presences over the last few years, when LeBron would do the pointing thing, guess what would happen? Everybody else is doing the pointing thing, and the Lakers would lose some stupid game to the Charlotte Hornets. Well, now Luka is the leader in the locker room, and I'm really, really curious to see what that is going to look like, and to what extent the Lakers follow his tone versus LeBron's tone. Now, obviously, tomorrow we aren't going to get that, we aren't going to get that comparison because LeBron isn't going to be playing. But I do want to see what kind of tone Luka tries to set early and often, and to what extent the Lakers follow his tone specifically and try to match that energy, not just tomorrow, but obviously moving forward. All right, that is all that I basically have when it comes to previewing tomorrow's game specifically. We do have a couple of super comments, so we'll go ahead and play my favorite sound. I technically could play this one whenever the Lakers play the Mavericks. Oof. My throat, man. I'm sorry, Anthony Davis. I'm not trying to pick on AD. I swear I'm not. I'm just marveling at the irony of Nico Harrison trades Luka Doncic fresh off of one of the most impressive starts to any career that we have ever seen in NBA history. He trades Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis Luke, and part of the reason for doing so, he said both publicly and tried to leak privately. Part of the reason for it was because he didn't think Luka was going to be able to stay in shape. Well, trades Luka, Luka gets in shape. Anthony Davis gets to training camp 15 pounds overweight. It's a cold world, man. It is a cold, cold world. All right, let's start with that super comment from Brandon Omeng, who writes lineup. LD Luka, AR, Bando, LeBron, Ayton, with a bench unit of Marcus Smart, Dalton Connect, JL. Who's JL? Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, and Jackson Hayes. I understand why people are hoping that Vando would be good enough to start. And look, Redick has spoken about and raved really about Jared Vanderbilt to this point quite a bit. I just know how much JJ Redick cares about shooting and spacing, and there's a reason that Rui was the clubhouse leader to be the starter at the beginning of next season, even before Marcus Smart got hurt, right? Like JJ Redick loves and cares deeply. Like one of the better points that I think anybody has made about JJ Redick is when Jovan points out how JJ Redick is very flexible on principles and concepts and these foundational concepts that he doesn't care that deeply about. But when it's something that he really, really cares about, when it's one of those, core principles of his, he is not very flexible there. And one of the, I would argue the core principle that JJ Redick cares about the most is probably shooting. So long as that remains the case, I just don't think Jared Vanderbilt is going to be anything more than like a 2, maybe 3 shift player. And those guys don't start. So, I think it's always been between Rui Hachimura and Marcus Smart for that final starting spot. And with Marcus Smart missing at least the first week of training camp, and given the fact that or given, I don't know if I would call it a fact, but given that I heard Rui was already the clubhouse leader heading into training camp, it just appears that JJ Redick is going to be very strict about spacing principles. So I just don't see a world where Jared Vanderbilt starts. Now, could he be one of the first guys off the bench? Like one of him or Smart basically has to be the first guy off of the bench so that you don't have too much overlap of their stints. Because if you go out there with a lineup of Marcus Smart and Jared Vanderbilt and Jackson Hayes, well, good luck to the other two guys trying to, space the floor enough to make up for some of those floor spacing issues. So I'm that's part of the reason that I was hoping that Smart would, one, be healthy enough to start, and two, would eventually get that nod, is because without him starting, it makes it really kind of difficult to have a bench unit that still abides JJ Redick's spacing principles and spacing as a priority. So it's just tough. I don't know what that looks like, but I do hope that, the Lakers ranting and raving about Jared Vanderbilt so far in training camp, I do hope that does, eventually lead to a much more productive Jared Vanderbilt than we have seen the last couple of seasons. Next question here comes from Drip Show, who writes, what's a good way to contact you so we could send you a Drip Show Kobe canvas gift We know you will love it. The show's email is bw.lakers.lounge@gmail.com, or you can there's also, I believe, a link in my Twitter profile at Anthony Irwin LA, which you can find there. But yeah, I'll take swag, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate the super comment to try to ask that question. Yeah, I would hit me with the yeah, bw.lakers.lounge@gmail.com. Oh, here we go. All right, let's go through some of your other comments. I also asked for questions. I just want to make sure I didn't miss too many of them. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're good there. All right, so let's run through some of your guys' questions, see if you guys had any questions. Um Alex Chavez went on vacation and missed out on so many lives, and I'm still not caught up. Feel like the season is imminent. Thanks for all the content. No, I appreciate it. And yeah, I normally in the off season, I usually scale it back to like 3 or so like long shows a week, maybe a couple extra lowdowns and stuff. But it was actually we had Eurobasket, we had the Clippers thing, we had the Lakers' own offseason, we had there was plenty of stuff to talk about throughout the offseason. I was actually able to stay at that, 4 to 4.5 episodes per week kind of pace, without feeling like I was trying to squeeze wine from a stone. And no, the only reason I was able to do that and continue to do that, or feel like it was worth it to continue to do that, was because of the commitment that you guys, the audience, brought to the table. So shouts to you guys. You guys killed it this offseason, and have continued to kill it as we get ready and into training camp. All right, Drip Show. What do you think of the Clippers not calling on certain reporters to avoid aspiration questions? I asked Buha. So, let me see if I can find the clip from Ramona, who kind of detailed what was going on there. And this was funny to listen to. This is me being a producer while I host the show. Shouts to the tools of the trade that I've been able to develop. But yeah, essentially Ramona, said that the media was pretty muzzled, and the Clippers played some pretty stellar defense against the people who were trying to, the buyout offseason also helped Rosemary. Where, come on, Twitter, let's go. But yeah, according to Ramona, this clip isn't downloading. So that's kind of weird. Let's see. Is there another one? Copy link. Let's see that. But yeah, according to Ramona's Shelburne, she asked a question of Kawhi and of Lawrence Frank. She got a question in for each of them about aspiration. Yeah, the Twitter downloader is working right now. But and after she asked that question, Clippers media, meaning State TV, right? Their Clippers TV reporter and their Clippers radio people, they jumped in and asked a couple of kind of fluff questions. And then I think she said that Law Murray asked a question. It was kind of a weird question, honestly, which was like, something along the lines of, how do you avoid this becoming a distraction heading into the season? Which that reminded me a lot of. No, I'm not going to make that point. But like, like asking about it becoming a distraction. That's the kind of question that the Clippers, I would imagine, are going to be very comfortable with, right? Because it paints them as some kind of victim that is dealing with some distraction that other people brought upon them. Um, and then, Ramona, according to Ramona Shelburne, there were other reporters there. Well, first they yanked the microphone, according to Ramona. Um, they yanked the microphone out of her hand before she could ask a follow-up of Kawhi Leonard. And then there were other reporters there with their hands up trying to ask questions, and they just kind of cut those questions short from there. And, this is where the people who are it was like people who and I think it's good that members of the media get held to account, but it reminded those people who were like get angry at media, like beat reporters and those of us who ask questions for not asking the specific question that they would like asked. Some of it is that like these teams sometimes play defense in anticipation of the type of question that you would want asked, right? I remember talking to some beat reporters who covered Byron Scott, and it was like if they asked any kind of a question that would kind of question Byron as a coach, the Lakers really bristled. I'm sorry, I need to take a cough. Whoa, almost died. But so, wow, I already sound better. But so essentially, like these teams, they'll know in their PR, like if they have even decent PR people, they'll know which questions are probably coming from the media, and they'll know which questions are coming from certain members of the media. And like D-Russ the legend, love the love the choice of video. It was literally just like, I just need 12 seconds. Okay, there's 12 seconds. Here we go. But yeah, to get back to the question. So PR, those of you who may be new to my content here, I come from PR. Before I started covering the Lakers, my first like big boy job was working at a pretty, we were called a boutique PR firm. I won't go into which PR firm I worked for, but we had clients all over the board, right? And dealing with media, arranging media availability. Um, Sometimes we helped with crisis management as well, which also obviously featured a lot of handling the media and preparing people for media availabilities. Like it was our job as a PR firm to basically like understand, you know, if we were in crisis mode, how to, quell those waters, and keep them as calm as possible to protect our clients, sometimes from themselves. And, uh, you know, eventually you spend enough time in those jobs and you build enough of those relationships with members of the media, and you basically you understand, like, all right, this guy is gonna, this guy, and by the way, like I say this out of respect for journalists who operate like this, but like there were some journalists who's like, god dang it, this guy's here, he is gonna grill us, or gosh damn it, this girl's here, like she's not gonna let us off the hook. And so we would try to manage those situations in a way where the journalist, now this is where I think the Clippers PR team screwed up, but you want the journalist and you want the members of the media to feel like they got something out of that, while also managing the situation that your client is in. And that's where I think the Clippers kind of screwed up, because Now you have Ramona Shelburne going on ESPN LA saying, yeah, they yanked the mic out of my hands and then wouldn't answer Chris Mannix's question. So, like to Clippers fans would say that's just the Clippers PR team doing their jobs. But I would argue that it's pretty heavy handed. And, you know, we're living in a time where censorship is very much on the docket in society. And, it's kind of interesting to see, people react to this who might not react to it in the real world, or maybe not notice it in the real world. And that's where, again, I talked about the other day about how, like, sometimes you can weave those real world subject matters into the stuff that we're paying attention to in this dumb carnival that is sports. This is kind of like that, where we know what that looks like. We know what censorship kind of looks like there. We know what heavy-handed management looks like there. And I thought the Clippers handled that pretty poorly, to be completely honest. It also goes back to, like, with the Clippers. I made this point on Twitter the other day. The Clippers know what they did. Yes, they're the ones being investigated. Like, I saw Pablo Torre actually, Tom Haberstroh found this the other day, where the Clippers scrubbed all of their media day stuff off of their YouTube page. That's weird. It's the only team that did that in the NBA. And like the Mavericks the other day, right? Like during media day, they turned off comments from their live audience on their YouTube page. So, like, we know what it looks like when a guilty party is acting in a way that protects themselves from that kind of accountability. And and so it's like, here with the Clippers, yes, you're being investigated. But at any point here, if you had any information that would let you off the hook, you could have presented it. Now, my guess is, this is just a guess, but my guess is that information would let them off the hook, but would maybe get Kawhi into some trouble, or would maybe get some lower level Clipper staff into some trouble, or they would throw some lower level Clipper staff to the wolves or something like that. And that might be something that, like, the Clippers are reluctant to just release publicly until the investigation forces them to do so. But, like, I thought it was really weird that the Clippers basically, to a man, were like, yeah, we welcome this investigation. We're confident that this investigation will present facts that will allow us all to move on and prove that we are innocent of all of these things. And it's like, well, if you had that information that would prove that you are innocent, just present it once. Pablo Torre has been reporting on this thing for months. He's been asking you guys to participate in this investigation. If you had some kind of clarification that would have avoided 5 podcasts, however many thousands of tweets that have all gotten their millions of impressions, all indicating how guilty everybody knows or thinks that you are. Like, if you could have nipped this in the bud earlier with some kind of clarification or explanation to Pablo Torre that would have stopped that investigation back then you wouldn't be in the spot that you're in right now. And now at this point, the more that you dig your heels in on nonsense like ripping a microphone out of Ramona Shelburne's. By the way, Ramona Shelburne, like, I actually thought this was really kind of interesting. This is very inside baseball, but that Steve Ballmer interview that Ramona Shelburne did for ESPN, that's going to go down in infamy. That's going to be a really bad look. And in that interview, Steve Ballmer appears to have lied quite a bit. And for Ramona Shelburne to agree to an interview that essentially comes off as propaganda, that's like, I know that Ramona has a reputation for whatever and stuff like that. She's still a journalist, and she's still a damn good journalist. And so this notion that, like, like her questions, like she had the exchange the other day with Lawrence Frank, which was, has Uncle Dennis or Kawhi Leonard requested anything of the Clippers that goes beyond what is legally allowed in the CBA that wouldn't circumvent the cap? And Lawrence Frank's response echoed that of Steve Ballmer, which was, they know the rules, we know the rules, and if need be, we remind them and ourselves of the rules. And Ramona followed up because she'd already gotten that question before. She'd already gotten that response. She followed up with, is that a yes or is that a no? And the response to that from Lawrence Frank was, yes, we all know the rules, which isn't what Ramona was asking. So, like, Ramona kind of went after them a little bit and then aired how they handled media day in this way, probably because she's pissed off that Steve Ballmer used her for propaganda in that first interview that, again, has aged like milk in the hot summer. So, yeah, I don't piss off journalists, man. Like, don't piss off good journalists, I should say. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go with, okay, Omaris Hall asking, you know what's funny? Dallas media isn't criticizing AD, but they did criticize Luka. So, all right, this needs to be pointed out on the AD front. Anthony Davis suffered some kind of an eye injury last year that he apparently tried to play through initially, which he probably shouldn't have. Required surgery during the offseason, and that surgery, or the recovery from that surgery, didn't allow him to exercise, and he gained some weight, right? That's the easiest explanation here. Now, he tried to do the whole, like, I like to come into training camp a little bit heavier because I know over the course of the season I'm going to lose weight. Okay. Like, I just think the more likely explanation here is that he couldn't work out and his weight got away from him a little bit, which is easy. That happens very easily at Anthony Davis's age, so just look at me. So when it comes to Anthony Davis's weight and how the media handles it, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. My guess is because you have DLLS, which I think does a really good job of holding the Mavericks' feet to the fire, or did a very good job of holding their feet to the fire after the Luka trade. My buddy Kirk, right, on Pod Maverick, which is an Odyssey platform. Nobody is harder on the Mavericks than Kirk. And there are, several other, voices and stuff like that. Tim McMahon is, with ESPN. He's not exactly, state media for the Dallas Mavericks either. So I would say that, like, I understand, the immediate response or our initial instinct on these things is to jump to the conclusion that our guy is getting or got worse treatment there than our old guy is now getting there. But if AD's weight is a problem, and that is the reason, or one of the reasons, that they traded Luka, I don't think local media will handle that very well at all. All right, you guys can hear my voice. It is going. It is not exactly holding up. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and try to record a lowdown as well. So again, by the way, you can find lowdowns here on this feed, on YouTube. So check out those episodes when they air. The first one aired yesterday, and check out that tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow afternoon, Pete and I will record an episode of The Hook in preparation for the preseason opener as well. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.